This ain't no rap shit. Definitely ain't no cap shit, man. That's a whole lot of legal trap shit. Tell the people who got in the building with us today.
What's up, y'all? I'm Eli Smacks, producer, music producer, and classical pianist.
Hey, so for the ones that don't know who you are, how did you even get into being a producer?
That's a great question. So basically, I would say when I was 3, my parents put me into piano lessons and classical music. So I've been playing piano for about 23 years now. But when I was 15, I started realizing I was hearing other sounds, besides what I was reading in my head. And that's when I started composing music. And I would say probably around the time I was 19 is when I realized I could add a beat to the music I was composing. And that's when producing really started for me.
So when did you actually jump into producing full time and making connection with artists?
So I would say it really started in about 2017, 2018, but I didn't quit my corporate job until November of 2020.
What was it like jumping out there, quitting your corporate job? What made you finally decide
So in 2019, I sold $3 million worth of office space for my corporate job. I was in commercial real estate. And when I saw my check versus the $3 million that I sold, I was like, dang, I could be making this $3 million for me.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So I think it was at that moment in the 2019 that I was like, I can't be here. I looked around, I saw 40, 50-year-olds just content making 6 figures, but I was like, nah, this is great, but I want more than this for myself. And so it took me a year to actually make that transition.
What took you so long to make that transition?
I'm a single mom and I have kids, so just making sure that they were gonna be cared for and that I wasn't gonna be homeless, a starving artist kind of syndrome or anything like that. So I really started, I would say in 2019, making more connections, gearing up and all of that. And then November 2020 is when I quit. And I just...
Was you scared when you jumped out there?
Of course.
Yeah. What was your biggest fear after you quit that job?
My biggest fear was not having money for bills, because even though I can sell, offices and phones and what I'm saying, everything I had been in corporate selling, it was I had to actually sell my talent. And so I was worried that people wouldn't necessarily want to buy my talent, you just don't know how it's going to be taken.
Right. And then being a female in this game, is that hard for you?
Yeah, most definitely. So I recently actually, this month in 2022, have launched a community for women called I'm That 2%, which is what my shirt says. Because in the industry, only 2% of producers are female, 2%. So it's really male driven for sure. So women are definitely overlooked in the producing side of the industry. I've definitely had where I've been in a studio session and people will come in and not even say anything to me, thinking I'm there with just someone else. And I have to make a point to be like, hey, I'm Eli, I produce,
How does that make you feel when somebody walk in the studio and just go right past you?
I used to be annoyed, but it's just education. I feel like they're educated to think that if a girl's in the studio, she's either an artist or there with someone, they're not really gonna bother her, as far as anything business-wise goes. But I feel like the platform that I launched and then me myself, I'm changing that trajectory for women, so we'll be less overlooked in the industry soon, just because of that.
Fast forward, how did you end up making connections with certain artists and getting your beats and stuff out there?
Yeah, so in 2020, January 2020 is when not January, but in 2020 is when I really started getting active with a production team called Ice Mob. So the producers on that team are from Houston, Dallas, and Atlanta. And so they had ties with a lot of mainstream artists, and so I'd be able to kind of tap in and co-produce with them. And then I also really would go to a lot of events, so up and coming events like secret showcases. I would just get my name out there. I would literally sometimes talk to maybe 200 or 300 people in one night. Yeah. And I would just walk up to them and be like, hey, I'm Eli, I'm a producer, can I get your Instagram? And then that's nonstop. Probably a whole entire year I did that.
And did that work out for you?
It did. It recently transitioned where I started seeing, because I wasn't really sure if it was really the right way to go about it, because I'm new to this. I've only been out of corporate America for a year, a little over a year now. But I would say probably halfway through 2021 is when it transitioned, when people were coming up to me and saying, hey, are you Eli? I've been following you on Instagram, I want to work with you. So it made me realize like everything I've been doing started trickling back, you know, in the right way.
Right. So being in corporate America, did you take some things from corporate America and apply it to what you have going on today?
Most definitely. So I was in sales for a long time. So I would say like there's a close rate on sales. So like for phones, you know, like maybe a week or something like that. On Office Space, it could be anywhere from like 2 months to like 6 months or whatever. So with music, you can make the connection and meet someone and get their number today and not hear from them for maybe like 2-3 months to like a year or two, you know what I'm saying? So you can't really pressure people to work with you that have a name already. It's really about just creating that relationship and that vibe with them, and then when they recognize that they're ready to work with you, they're gonna reach out. Like if someone's serious, they're gonna reach out.
Do you ever get discouraged at times, like, yeah, this ain't it?
I never get discouraged that it's not it, but I do sometimes get discouraged because I feel like maybe I'm going down the wrong path in certain areas to get to where I want to go, and then I have to reassess and kind of like realign myself of, you know, like my goals and my focus.
So is that what keeps you going? Like what keeps you going on that path? Like, yeah, I'm gonna keep moving forward with this.
Well, for sure, my kids, and I'm really not after necessarily like making Eli known, I guess, if that makes sense. The reason why I'm creating the platform that I'm creating is really just to change the trajectory in the industry for females. So I understand to do that, I have to kind of have myself on a platform where I'm able to have where people actually want to hear what I have to say. So that's my like long-term goal. It's not necessarily just being known for my music. Like it's being known to change the industry for females.
What are some pros when it comes to being an entrepreneur or just a producer in general?
It's a lot more work than being in corporate America, but I love it. So loving what I do versus working for someone else's money is a lot,
right.
Definitely a pro, for sure.
What are some of the cons that comes to
that you have to work more?
Right.
Like you have to really make, like I really have to make a time for myself, time for my kids, because you can literally work 24/7 and just be nonstop. You know, like you really have to take time to reflect and make sure that your day-to-day process doesn't leave you out, because you can be so focused that you're really doing yourself a disservice. And I know that sounds weird because everyone's like focus, but you can focus too much and lose yourself in that. So not losing yourself is important.
So when you jumped out here, do you feel like you had the support that you needed?
I feel like I didn't have any support at first. I feel like a lot of people didn't believe that I could do it. Being that I'm a female, being that I'm a single mom, they're like, what are you doing? Like, you have a 6-figure job. Like, why would it, like, you should be content, but I wasn't. And I feel like a lot of people didn't trust that it was gonna work out for me. So the fact that I'm now where I'm at, a lot of those people have now been like, oh my gosh, like, I didn't think you were gonna be able to do it. Like, I thought you would have had a job again by now. You know what I'm saying?
So they kind of doubted you.
For sure, yeah. Yeah, because I mean, I'm very rare. Like, you don't really see females producing at all, or full-time, you know? So that in itself, you know, they just couldn't figure out, you know, what I was really after.
How did that make you feel when knowing that the people close to you doubted you?
It made me want to prove them wrong. Like, I just really wanted to prove them wrong. And I did. So.
And now you proving them wrong, they all in shock, like, hey.
But to be honest with you, like the few that didn't doubt me, I would say are probably the most genuine people, and it showed me that most of the people that were rocking with me weren't really rocking with me for my success or for my best interest. They were just rocking with me for my popularity or whatever.
For their own personal gain.
Right. So going through that process and basically weeding out who really was down for me versus who wasn't, it kind of showed me like you really have to be careful who you keep in your corner. Like,
did it shock you about the people that you thought that was in your corner that weren't?
Most definitely, yeah, for sure. Because it's like people I've been around for years, you know what I'm saying? Like, and they're like, producing, like, you just want to do your own thing, like, and I'm like, what? Like, no, this is like a big deal for me. Like, so it definitely does shock me even now. Those same people, some of those same people do, you know, keep watching, but just waiting for me to feel like to fail still, even to this day. And I think another reason why I keep going is like I'm still proving them wrong, and that feels good. Like, right. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm still doing it. So
And they still looking crazy.
Yeah.
What other struggles did you face when it came to like, let me ask you this, how were you able to monetize what you had going on?
So that's a great question. So basically just pushing, like I said, talking to 200 people in one night, just like pushing beats, you know, getting people to pay deposits for beats and stuff like that really was how I monetized. And it was really hard for me because to monetize to the point where I needed to, I had to produce for some people that I didn't necessarily feel like were worth my skill level. You know what I'm saying? But I had to get out there and I had to make money because I had to pay my bills. Like, trap music isn't my favorite genre, but trap music was making me the most money because there's so much oversaturation of trap music, especially in Dallas. So that's what I was selling the most of, even though it's like dumbed down music compared to, like, I'm a classical pianist, so my musical skill level is like orchestra, like, right. You know what I'm saying? Like everything, you know, like, oh, I hear all the sounds, but they just want 808s and one key, you know, over and over and over, you know, and hi-hats and like a snare on, you know, the first or third beat. So like, I hated that. And I felt like almost like at first I kind of almost lost the love for the music just because it just felt so much like I was a robot, just really like pushing out music that I didn't like, over and over again. Like the same thing. And so I still do work with some artists that are in trap, but I'm trying to transition, and I have recently been transitioning back into more like hip hop, R&B, and some pop music.
When it comes to selling like your beats and producing, do people try to negotiate your prices?
No, they don't negotiate my price. They'll just say they can't afford it or they never paid for a beat. Like I hear a lot of times I'll hear like, hey, I want to work with you, and I'll be like, yeah, great. You know, it's a $50 deposit, and then if you want an exclusive track, it's this much, or if you know you don't want an exclusive track, it's this much. And they'll be like, oh, well, I never pay for beats, and I'll be like, okay, well, you're not gonna work with me. So it's like I have to say no, like straight up. Like I just say no, because people who are serious about what they're doing, they recognize talent and they're gonna want to work with you. And the people that haven't recognized that, when I am, you know, even a year from now in a whole different place and the price has gone up even more, they're gonna wish that they had when it was that price. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Because of the value being built.
So you don't think people respect your value when it comes to?
I feel like the people I need to work with do, and it's easy to see the people that I don't need to work with because they don't.
Right. So when it comes to like just the music scene in the city of Dallas, you know, what are your views on that?
I feel like there is a lot of hidden talent in Dallas. A lot of hidden talent. I feel like people in Dallas are too caught up on clout and selfishness that they really aren't able to create the music scene that Dallas could be because of that. If people in Dallas really looked at each other as like, let's all win instead of I'm winning and like forget all of y'all, I feel like that it would be a lot different. I just last year was in Atlanta working on music. I went to Seattle, worked on music. I went to Indianapolis, LA, New York. And every city that I was in showed me more love and was ready to pay for what I had to offer than Dallas. Even Houston has more appreciation than Dallas does.
Yeah. Do you feel like as a producer, there's competition in this lane for you?
I feel like the only competition that I see is that a lot of women do get beats for free from male producers, and they're used to that. So working with women is a little harder for me because they're not like they don't ever pay because they're used to dating the producer or going out with the producer or flirting with the producer, and they can't do that with me. So it's harder in regards to working with women for me. But at the same time, the women who are serious about what they're doing, they'll work with me. So it's really about weeding out people who are serious about what they're doing and who aren't.
Do you collab with a lot of producers?
I do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
For sure. Have you did some big producers or just locally?
Yeah, for sure. So I would say like Big Cuz Beats, which he's like gold and does a lot of stuff. He's done a lot of stuff for like Mode 3. I also worked with Splurge the God. He also did stuff for Mode 3. That's like all local. Like he's in Atlanta, but that's a local artist that people would know. I've done a collab with Mousequake, and I'm still working on an album actually with him. And he is a legend. Like, let me tell you, this man, like, he's worked with T.I., like, he's worked with so many people. Like whenever I went to his studio, it just really blew my mind. Like, it's definitely a legend for me that I've gotten to work with, and definitely honored to work with him. And I work with a lot of different producers. I would say like collabing has really taught me a lot, because I feel like a lot of producers shy away from collabing because they don't want to be outdone by the other person, and they're scared because like, what if, you know, I don't like what they have to offer. But everyone has a different ear, so the pro of collabing is you're gonna get something different, you know, especially if you're having beat block or anything like that. It's definitely gonna help you kind of like, oh, that sounds really good, like I would have never thought of that, you know, and might even learn something new for sure.
So far on this journey, you know, what have you learned just jumping into this entrepreneur lane?
Learned in what regard?
Just in general, anything that you learned since you jumped into this lane and become an entrepreneur?
Being an entrepreneur is not for everyone. I don't think everyone is called to be an entrepreneur. I think there's specific people that are called to be an entrepreneur. I don't feel like everyone, like, we still need doctors, we still need lawyers, we still need trashmen, you know what I'm saying?
Right.
Like, there's still roles for people that are able, because it really is work 24/7, and you have to be motivated to the extent that, you know, you're gonna keep repetitively focused and doing the same thing and be your own boss. Like, not everyone's able to do that, and I feel like entrepreneurship is hot right now. Everyone wants to start their own business. Everyone wants to be their own boss. But it's really a trend because they don't want to work, because they feel like entrepreneurship's easy, and it's not. And I think that's something that I learned. Like, it's really, really hard. Like, it is really, really hard, but it's worth it in the end, because, you know, at the end of the day, you're creating a legacy that no one can take from you.
What characteristics do you feel one should possess if they're going to become an entrepreneur?
Drive, focus, creativity, motivation, like self-motivation. Yeah, those are probably like some of the biggest ones. And really manifestation. Like, if you don't manifest in your life already, then, you know, you're not really going to be able to go nowhere, because you're going to be doubting yourself. Like, I definitely would say manifestation's got me so far. I definitely talk about things as though like they're gonna happen even if they haven't yet, you know, because I truly believe like there's no limit to anyone. Like, you keep yourself inaccessible to access those who are inaccessible.
Right. All right, man. So tell the people where they can find you on social media.
Yeah, for sure. You can follow me on Instagram. It's Eli Smacks with a Z _, and it's like I'm the only one, so it'll pop up.
Hey, man. This ain't no rap shit. Definitely ain't no cap shit, man. It's a whole lot of legal trap shit.